That night, I received an emergency call from the ER. A male patient, Mr. Dean, 71 years old, had just been brought in after suffering a stroke in the middle of the night. It happened just a few hours after he finished dinner. What puzzled me was that just a week earlier, I had done a full checkup on him. Everything was stable. His blood pressure was well controlled. He walked normally. No warning signs. He lived independently, was in good spirits, and was even planning a vacation with his wife next month. And now, he lay motionless. His eyes were awake, but he couldn't speak. One side of his body wouldn't move at all. An MRI showed a deep brain hemorrhage, severe and sudden. I couldn't understand how this happened so quickly, so unexpectedly. Until I read the nurse's notes. Patient had dinner out, fried food, salty, and 1 glass of wine. And in that moment, I felt a chill down my spine. Not because the meal was something extreme. On the contrary. It was the kind of dinner I myself and probably many others have had more than once. And that's when I realized, we underestimate dinner. We often think, it's just dinner, what could go wrong? But sometimes, it's that what could go wrong that costs your brain more than you can afford. You don't need to live in fear or avoid every pleasure on your plate. But you do deserve to know where the line is and how to make safer choices for the brain that's carried you through over 60 years of life. In this video, I'll share clearly with you, white check mark emoji, why certain dinners can trigger a stroke within just hours, white check mark emoji, the subtle warning signs people overlook after eating, white check mark emoji, and at the end, I'll give you the 3 most important dinner rules, the ones I've learned after decades of treating older stroke patients. But before we get to that, I need to tell you what really happened to Mr. Dean. Because it started at the dinner table, and ended with a part of his memory lost forever. I first met Mr. Dean during a routine annual checkup. He was 71, stood tall, had a good sense of humor, and lived independently. His blood pressure was a bit high but well controlled with medication and a low-sodium diet. No diabetes. No alarming cholesterol. Still walked every morning. Mentally sharp. During that visit, he smiled and told me, "Doc, I'm not trying to live to 100. I just want to stay clear-headed and not trouble my wife and kids." I smiled back, thinking, he's doing everything right. But just 1 week later, I saw him on a stretcher in the ER. His mouth drooping slightly. Uneven eyes. Unable to speak. His left arm completely limp. His wife, Mrs. Linda, had called 911. Her voice still shook as she told the story. That night, he went out to dinner with some old friends. He was happy. Got home around 9. Took a shower, then said he had a slight headache. I asked if he felt okay, and he said, probably just ate too much. Then he went to bed. An hour later, I heard this heavy breathing and he couldn't speak anymore. She paused. Eyes brimming with tears. He looked at me like he wanted to say something but couldn't. I called 911 right away. But it was already too late. We did everything we could. The brain bleed was located in the Broca's area, the region responsible for speech. We ran through all the usual causes, no trauma. No fall. No warning symptoms prior to that night. Only one thing stood out in the intake notes: dinner, fried steak, French fries, 1 glass of red wine. Late meal after 8 p.m. You might be thinking, what's wrong with a dinner like that? Everyone eats that sometimes. And that is exactly what made me pause. Was that dinner wrong? Not really. But it had all the ingredients that can quietly put an older adult at risk: saturated fats, thicker blood flow, salt, fluid retention, raises blood pressure, alcohol, temporary vessel dilation, followed by rebound hypertension. Late eating disrupts internal regulation and sleep quality, and most importantly, aging blood vessels are no longer as flexible as they once were. When I visited Mr. Dean in the recovery unit, he was awake but silent. His wife sat beside him, holding his hand without letting go. I gently touched her shoulder. She looked up and quietly said, "It was just a normal dinner. But now, I can't hear his voice every morning anymore." From that day forward, I could never see dinner the same way, especially when someone tells me, "It's just a little dinner. What harm could it do?" Because now I know. It can. And from Mr. Dean's story, I started asking the deeper question, why can a meal that feels so harmless trigger a stroke in just a few hours? The answer isn't that complicated if we understand what's happening inside our blood vessels and brain at night. In the next section, I'll break it down for you clearly and simply. Because I believe, knowing one small thing early can save an entire part of your memory. Many people still believe, if eating can trigger a stroke, it must take something extreme. But the truth is, sometimes all it takes is a dinner that's a little too salty, a bit too fatty, or eaten too late, and that alone can quietly tip the balance, especially if you already carry certain risk factors. Let's start with something that seems simple. Your body at night is not the same as during the day. After 9 p.m., our biological rhythm shifts into recovery mode. The heart slows down. Blood pressure naturally drops. The brain begins producing melatonin to prepare for sleep. At this point, your body is no longer in a ready-to-respond mode like it is during the day. And that's exactly when, if something disrupts the balance, your body may not react fast enough to correct it. So what happens inside your body if you eat a dinner like Mr. Dean's, heavy in salt, saturated fat, fried steak, fries, thick sauce, with a glass of wine? 1. Salt causes water retention, which raises blood pressure. This is especially dangerous if you have hypertension, even mild. If your blood pressure spikes while you're lying down asleep, your brain can't adjust in time, and small vessels may rupture like a balloon stretched too tight. 2. Bad fats make your blood stickier, increasing the risk of clots. At night, circulation slows down. Add thickened blood from a heavy, greasy meal and you create ideal conditions for clots to form, especially in people with atherosclerosis, diabetes, or high cholesterol. That clot may travel to the brain when you roll over in bed and block a small vessel, causing an ischemic stroke in your sleep. 3. Alcohol and stimulating foods disrupt your nervous system, making sleep shallow, heart race, and vessels unstable. Many people think a glass of wine helps them sleep. But in reality, alcohol may help you fall asleep faster, yet it shortens your sleep cycle and causes you to wake up more easily. Each time you suddenly wake, your heart races, your vessels constrict and blood pressure fluctuates. For younger people, the body adjusts. But for older adults, one sharp fluctuation at 3 a.m. could be enough to rupture a weakened vessel in the brain. 4. Eating too much before bed puts extra strain on your heart, liver, and brain. At night, your stomach needs rest. If you force it to work for 3 to 4 hours digesting a heavy meal, you also drag the liver, pancreas, and heart into overtime, indirectly raising internal cranial pressure. Older adults are especially prone to nighttime blood pressure dysregulation, and when the brain doesn't get steady oxygen, the weakest region suffers first. I'm not telling you this to make you fear every dinner. I'm simply asking you to know this: your body needs gentleness in the evening. And your brain, after a long day of serving you, doesn't need a celebration. It just needs peace. What's scary is, you won't feel anything unusual right away. No pain, no dizziness, no warning signs. You'll just feel tired like always. You'll think, "I'll sleep it off." But some people never wake up again. So how can you tell if something about dinner went wrong? How can you know when your body is whispering for help while you're asleep? In the next part, I'll share 5 subtle warning signs that can appear within a few hours after dinner, quiet signals from your brain saying, "I'm not okay, please pay attention." I once asked a patient after a minor stroke, "Did you notice anything unusual before going to sleep?" And the answer I hear most often sounds something like, "Oh yes, doctor. But I thought it was normal." That's exactly why I always remind people, a stroke doesn't always come like a bolt of lightning. More often, it arrives like a cool breeze brushing past. You don't realize you're cold until you're already sick. Evening hours right after dinner are crucial. And if you start paying attention to these signs, you might be hearing the earliest warning your brain is trying to send. 1. A dull headache after dinner, especially in the forehead or the back of the neck. If your head feels heavy after dinner, especially in the forehead or near the base of your neck, and the discomfort is dull with no clear cause, don't ignore it. It could be a sign of increased intracranial pressure, or a sign that your brain's blood vessels are struggling to adapt after a salty, fatty meal or after alcohol. This pain isn't sharp. You won't clutch your head. But it whispers, quietly, your brain isn't happy with what you just gave it. 2. Mild numbness in one arm or leg, even if it passes quickly, a brief tingling in your left arm. A pins and needles feeling in your right calf. Just a few seconds, then it's gone. Most people brush it off. But if it happens on just one side of your body, or if it repeats several times a week, it might be an early sign of poor microcirculation in one hemisphere of the brain. It's like the brain briefly loses connection with that part of your body. And if you ignore that signal, that brief moment could turn into a permanent disconnect by morning. 3. Difficulty speaking slurred words or struggling to find the right terms after dinner. You start telling a story, but suddenly you can't find the word you were looking for. Your mouth moves, but the sentence doesn't come out right. You pause, rephrase or stay quiet because you feel embarrassed. Many think it's just fatigue, age, or a little forgetfulness. But let me be clear, this is one of the most important signs that your brain's language center isn't getting enough blood. Don't wait until the day you can't speak at all to take it seriously. 4. Unusually rapid heartbeat after dinner. If your heart races after a meal even when you're not active, emotional, or drinking coffee, pay attention. It's normal for the heart to beat faster after a heavy or stimulating meal. But in older adults, it could be a sign that your blood vessels are overloaded and your brain isn't receiving a steady supply of fresh blood. If your heart has to work overtime to support what your stomach is digesting, just remember, your brain may be the first to get shortchanged. 5. Poor sleep, waking up often, or vivid disturbing dreams. Restless sleep after a heavy dinner isn't just about digestion. It could signal that your autonomic nervous system is thrown off. You may wake around 1 to 2 a.m., struggle to fall back asleep, or experience clear, tiring dreams. You wake up feeling heavy, unsettled. Don't just chalk it up to stress. Your brain might not have recovered because it didn't get the rest it needed, all because of the wrong meal. And that's the beginning of a dangerous cycle: poor dinner, restless sleep, unstable blood vessels, blood pressure spikes, repeated minor brain damage. I'm not telling you all this to scare you. I'm telling you because your body always gives you a chance to hear it before it has to scream. And most of the time, those signs show up after a dinner we thought was no big deal. A plate of fried food because it was easy. A glass of wine to celebrate. A late meal because you were busy. Each small thing, stacked together, becomes a silent blow to your brain, night after night. After more than 20 years of caring for elderly patients, I've realized something: nighttime strokes rarely come from unusual events. They often happen after a dinner that feels just like any other. And that feeling of just like any other is exactly what makes it dangerous. Because when we repeat something long enough without noticing any issues, we begin to think it's harmless until one day, the body can't take it anymore. Out of the hundreds of stroke cases I've seen, there are 3 common types of dinners I encounter most often in older adults. No one ever thinks they could damage the brain. But in reality, they can push a fragile blood vessel to its final limit. 1. The make-up dinner when hunger turns into harm. I once had an older patient tell me, "I only drink tea in the morning, eat light at lunch. Dinner is my main meal to make up for the day." It sounds reasonable. But this kind of make-up eating leads many people to fall asleep with an overworked digestive system, an overstimulated heart, and a brain that's not getting enough blood to rest. These dinners usually include red meat, fried fish, eggs, shrimp, a full bowl of rice, rich soup, sweet fruit, plus dessert like sweet soup or whole milk. All of these are fine knife spread throughout the day. But when packed into one late dinner, the body can't keep up. The result? Blood pressure spikes after eating, less blood reaches the brain because it's being diverted to the gut, shallow sleep, rapid heartbeat, morning fatigue, foggy thinking. It's the kind of dinner that seems healthy on the surface but quietly exhausts your brain each night. 2. The convenience dinner. Quick, easy, but brutal for your blood vessels. This is the dinner I often see in those who live alone or are just too tired to cook. They usually turn to instant noodles, canned food, fried takeout meals, frozen items like pizza, sausages, processed snacks. I get it. We all have days when we don't feel like cooking. But the danger lies in the amount of salt, trans fats, and preservatives in these foods. They thicken the blood, cause silent vessel spasms, and raise blood pressure, especially at night when your body is trying to recover. They don't cause a stroke after one meal. But if you eat like this 3 to 4 nights a week, your brain fights a quiet battle every night just to stay alert the next day. 3. The social dinner when joy unknowingly becomes a trade-off many families still enjoy. Late-night dinners together, wine, beer, soft drinks, grilled, salty, cheesy foods, long conversations that stretch until 9 or 10 p.m. I understand the warmth of family meals. But if every dinner feels like a little party, your brain's blood vessels won't have a chance to recover. Alcohol causes vessels to dilate first and constrict sharply. Sugary drinks spike your blood sugar, then it crashes during sleep. Grilled meats and salty dishes keep your liver and kidneys working late. And while those organs are busy, your brain isn't getting the blood it needs to repair. I'm not saying don't enjoy yourself. I'm just saying, no joy is worth trading for a piece of your memory that might never come back. See? No dinner is completely bad. But if you eat it at the wrong time, the wrong way, or too often, even the tastiest foods can silently harm your brain. The good news? Just a few small changes, and you can start protecting your brain every night. I've seen so many people do it, and within weeks, they're sleeping deeper, waking up clearer, remembering better. In the next part, I'll share with you one of those stories, a journey in reverse, where dinner is no longer a threat, but a chance to restore memory, balance, and peace of mind. I first met Mrs. Helen almost a year ago, during a routine checkup for older adults. She was 75 years old, a neat and calm-spoken woman living with her husband in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Sacramento. She had no major health issues. No diabetes. Only mildly elevated blood pressure. But what brought her in wasn't a lab result, it was a feeling. She looked at me with uncertainty and said, "Lately I can't sleep well. I wake up after just 2 hours, heart pounding, stuck somewhere between dreaming and awake. And in the morning, my head feels foggy. Doctor, I don't feel as clear-minded as I used to." I asked her more about everything: medications, daily activities, and especially her dinners. She paused, then said quietly, "I still eat like I always have. But maybe a little late. My husband usually comes home late from work. We don't eat until about 8 p.m. And we don't really restrict our meals: meat, fish, even a little wine sometimes. When I heard that, I wasn't surprised. I've met dozens if not hundreds of people who slowly begin to lose deep sleep, experience mild memory fog, or feel their mind flickering, all because of one simple thing: their dinners no longer match their body's natural rhythms. I didn't give her sleeping pills. I didn't change her blood pressure meds. I just said gently, try eating earlier. Eat a bit lighter. And skip the evening wine just for 1 month. Then come back. A month later, she returned. She walked in looking noticeably different, lighter, more awake. I asked, "How have you been sleeping?" She smiled and said, "At first, it felt a little sad. Eating early made the evenings quiet. Skipping the wine felt like something was missing. But after just 1 week, I slept 5 hours straight without waking up. By the second week, I woke up without needing coffee. My mind felt clear like when I used to work at the library." She paused, then said something I'll never forget. "I never thought dinner could be part of the medicine. Part of memory." After 2 months of keeping the habit, her blood pressure was more stable than with medication alone. Her memory improved. Her mood lifted. And most importantly, she began sharing the change with her husband and friends in her neighborhood. From one simple shift in her dinner routine, she reclaimed her clarity, her sense of control, and a piece of life many others let slip away. I'm not sharing this story to praise one person. I'm sharing it so you can see this clearly. You don't have to do something grand to protect your brain. You just have to make better choices during the moments we often ignore, like dinner. And from stories like this, I've developed what I call the 3 golden rules of dinner for anyone at risk of stroke. 3 principles I wish every adult over 60 could learn earlier. After I shared Helen's story, many people asked me, "Doctor, then how should I eat dinner to stay safe? Do I have to avoid everything?" The answer is no. I don't believe in extreme restrictions or making life harder. I simply want you to understand this: to protect your brain, especially after 60, your dinner doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be right. After treating and following hundreds of older patients, I've narrowed it down to 3 simple principles. You don't have to overhaul your entire lifestyle. Just begin with these 3 steps every evening. White checkmark emoji. 1. Eat early, eat light, eat soft. Eat early, ideally before 6:30 p.m. Your body needs at least 3 hours to digest before bedtime. Late dinners make your liver, heart, and stomach work through the night, leading to poor sleep and a higher risk of nighttime strokes. Eat light. Don't treat dinner as the time to make up for missed meals. Think of it as saying goodbye to the day, not gearing up for another race. Focus on easy-to-digest meals: steamed fish, light soups, boiled veggies, small portions of rice, moderate protein. Eat soft, warm vegetable broth, light porridge, thin soups help calm the body, reduce internal pressure, and allow blood vessels to relax before sleep. A soft dinner is your brain's cue: it's safe to rest now. White checkmark emoji. 2. Avoid these 3 things after 7 p.m. Alcohol, sugary drinks, processed food. Alcohol causes your blood vessels to expand suddenly, then constrict during sleep, increasing stroke risk in those with high blood pressure. It may make you fall asleep fast, but disrupts deep, restorative sleep. Sugary drinks spike your blood sugar, then drop it during the night, leading to rapid heart rate and poor oxygen flow to the brain. Caffeine in sodas adds another layer of sleep disruption. Processed food, instant noodles, canned meats, sausages, frozen meals contain excess salt, preservatives, and reused oils. All of these thicken your blood, irritate your arteries, and make your brain more vulnerable while you sleep. Remember, after 7 p.m., you don't need more energy. You need recovery. White checkmark emoji. 3. End your dinner with warm water or a simple broth. This is a small but powerful habit I often recommend to older patients. Instead of finishing your meal with sweet fruits, milk, or heavy desserts, let your meal fade out with a bowl of light broth, a sip of warm water, or mild ginger tea. It helps flush out extra salt, softens the blood vessels, cools down your digestive system, and encourages deeper sleep. That warm feeling in your stomach slowly spreads to your chest like a gentle hug, and your brain understands, tonight, we can rest in peace. See? Nothing here is difficult. No pills. No medical equipment. Just a decision to treat your brain with a little more kindness each night. And in the end, everything comes down to this one reminder: you have the power to choose a safer evening for your brain. No one else can make that choice for you but you. In the final part, I'll close this conversation with a gentle message. Not a warning, but a soft reminder. That dinner isn't just the end of a day. It's a chance to preserve your memory for tomorrow. I used to think strokes only came from big things, accidents, major stress, or serious chronic illness. But after 20 years in the field, I've learned something far more important. Sometimes, what damages the brain isn't a dramatic event, but a small dinner repeated too many times. A meal that's just a little too late. A dish that's just a bit saltier than usual. A glass of wine at the wrong time. An evening that feels just like any other might end up being the last night your memory remains intact. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to remind you, you have the power to choose how you end your day. And that choice can be what protects the most precious things in your life. You don't need to live in fear or eat bland meals forever. You simply need to choose the right time, the right food, the right mindset. And most importantly, you only need to sit down at dinner with a spirit of self-understanding and self-kindness. Every dinner you choose more carefully is a deeper night of rest. A vascular system given time to restore. A brain that wakes up clearer. A memory preserved. A word remembered. A name called out without hesitation. If you've ever had a loved one suffer a stroke in their sleep, ever heard a gasp for breath in the middle of the night, ever woken up to find their eyes just not the same, please don't let it happen again. Share this video with someone who's rushing through dinner, who uses alcohol to fall asleep, or who says, "It's just a little food, what's the harm?" Because maybe, just maybe, we're helping save a voice. A memory. A part of someone they've yet to lose. And if you've started eating differently tonight, I'm happy for you. Because it's not just a change in food. It's the beginning of a longer, brighter, deeper journey back to yourself. I'd love to invite you to comment below this video. Right pointing finger emoji, what's your dinner routine like? Right pointing finger emoji, what have you changed recently? Because who knows, your small story might help someone avoid a mistake I've seen far too many times. We may not control everything about aging, but we can choose to live with clarity, one day at a time. And that journey starts with one gentle dinner at just the right time.